Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to a special edition of Transfer Market Metrics. Unfortunately, I can't be joined by Bart today, but don't you worry, he's had a say in this. We have crunched some numbers, and probably a bit like you, we're coming out with a few question marks. There is precisely 1 week left at the transfer window, the 1st of September. That's a Monday, 7 p.m. It will slam shut, as they say. And at this moment in time, there's work to be done. How much work? We'll probably all have different ideas about. But we're here to look at the minutes, try and answer the questions, and think the old famous one, what is the squad depth like as it stands right now? I'm your host, Dave Davis, coming to you from a sunny Edinburgh, looking forward to this one. And it goes a little bit back to, I suppose, last night, wasn't it? Paul Joyce had the comments from Arne Slot's embargo around the forwards. And if Isak came, is that enough? I'm sure you've seen them. You may well have read them yourselves today. Have your thoughts on that? We're here to try and bring a bit of a logical eye to it. Do it minute by minute through the areas of the team and think, are we sure? Are we not? Might well not change your mind in any of them. Might well not be trying to change your mind in any of them. We will see what comes up. So let's work through it, ladies and gents, one by one. And there's some key things for this. It is important as we sit here right now and analyse that we do talk about who's departed, who could even step up, and is there any potential targets in their area that seem realistic? Because that's always important to say. So we go through the team bit by bit. And before anyone jumps on me for this, on the screen, may or may not recognise, that is the lineup for Bournemouth. Before people start shouting, where's Grav, where's this player, etc., this was the team that started the game last Friday night. That's why you're seeing Kirkaz, VVD, Kanate, and Frimpong at the back. We all know he's got the injury currently and will be out to the international break. And then, people asking me already about McAllister in the chat panel and is Mrs. having a baby? Is he out for Newcastle? Same as me. Probably you've not seen him in the travelling party in those photos, in that footage. No, nothing more. We will see what develops tonight. But let's have a look at the defensive line, first of all. The back four that Liverpool play with, which has seen a few changes, it's important to say. Some big incomings, some big departures. And it's probably right to start with the departures here because naturally a certain right back departed this summer, didn't he? But it's important to remember that he actually played 3,479 minutes last season. That is a huge, massive contribution. At centre-back, we lost the body as well, didn't we? Or we lost Jarell Kwanzaa with a sell-on clause, about 35 million plus a sell-on to Bayer Leverkusen. 1,290 minutes we lost there. So if you put Trent and Kwanzaa together, already departed, you've lost 4,769 minutes. That's huge. That's a big dent. Okay? So you've got to fill that. Okay? Who else could you be losing? It's important to say, and he's kind of there at the bottom of the screen. I do adore the Greek Scouser, but Liverpool don't need three left-backs. They were never going to go into the season with three left-backs. And Tsimikas there, 1,674 minutes he racked up last season. So I think there's cover there. So let's kind of break this down as we go bit by bit. I mean, this is brilliant that we brought in Milos Kerkez. I know we didn't have the best debut against Bournemouth, but I thought there was a lot of circumstances to that. I do think he will be a brilliant signing. And naturally, and I'm going to do this for people say I've got 12 players on the pitch, it's more about squad depth than anything to illustrate it. I think of all the positions now, Kerkez and Robbo to cover left back. Robbo's leadership naturally in the circumstances. The squad is very strong there. And I know people will talk about injuries at fullbacks. We'll get to that. But left back on paper, really strong. Then we get to the centre-back mix, and I've got to sort of drag Joe Gomez into this, and I haven't actually made one little profile yet for Giovanni Leone, but we'll talk about it minute by minute. And just saw someone comment, what about the keeper? I mean, come on, people. Alisson and Marmadashvili. You don't get better depth in world football. Simple as that. So let's just put a tick in the box for that one. It's centre-back, I think, where people are concerned. Naturally, we're going to look to Virgil van Dijk. You didn't pay that big money for the renewal for 2 years to drop the minutes. You want him to play in the important games, of course, every minute possible. So that's in the mix. As it stands, you are asking Ibou Konate to go big again. And I mean that, big again. Ibou Konate played 3,372 minutes last season, which, if you compare his highest to Jurgen Klopp, or the season before, or the last season with Klopp, you could say 2,589. So it's a big jump for Ibou last season. And in fact, a very good season bar that little Hendrick shite taking him out, wasn't it, with that knock? But no real sort of muscle injuries, fatigue, the things you would expect. So, yeah, that is important to consider. We are going to be asking him to go again. Joe Gomez right now seems to be the third choice centre-back. And as I say this, people will already talk about, well, he came home from the Far East with a minor muscle strain and that concern in the mix. Of course, I get it. Came on for 20 minutes at right back. And then we're also told by Arne Slot that, and I want to phrase this carefully because I think people misinterpreted it. 20 minutes, and then he couldn't train completely for 3 days in a row. So I think people said he couldn't train at all. I think it was part of the session, as a few journalists have confirmed he couldn't, but he was back in training on Thursday. And well, many might scoff, and I get this, because anyone want to have a guess how many minutes Joe Gomez played last season? I mean, Redman 76 there has put Gomez has an Achilles injury, not a muscle strain. Sorry, it was Achilles, wasn't it? Yeah, you're absolutely correct. But last season, for whoever's watching, 8,000, what am I talking about? 874. Sorry, it's confusing numbers. I'm trying to do too many things at once. 874 minutes for Joe Gomez across all competitions. And absence-wise, he missed or wasn't available for a squad 28 games last season, 137 days. So that. Now, there is an argument, of course, that Kwanzaa is now covered. And I get that. You're thinking, well, 1,290 minutes. And when you look, Liverpool have brought Giovanni Leone into the squad there, haven't they? Which is a big positive, because Liverpool really wanted this kid, was all the briefing that we got. And at the same time, they've been chasing that young centre-back for a while, haven't they? The new, another Lenny Yoro, Dean Huijsen. We know they wanted that calibre. And this is why they paid that around 26 million quid for this kid. And actually with Parma, who, yes, were 16th in Serie A last season, did play about 1,200 minutes. So actually, there's that comes into the mix. And yeah, I get the comments already. John Tremetta says, don't remember Gomez playing a full match last season. I genuinely couldn't remember when we got the minutes from the analysts. But you think of the Brighton game, for instance, where he came on at half-time and had a big contribution. How many minutes has Joe Gomez got him this season? That is a huge, huge question. And then you come back to the right-back scenario, don't you? Where, naturally, as we start the season, it looked like Jeremy Frimpong would be competing with Connor Bradley. And Connor Bradley had his injuries. I mean, this was always going to be, I think, a big ask for what people were talking about minutes-wise with Connor Bradley. Connor Bradley last season played 1,385 minutes. That is against Trent's 3,479 in all competitions. So, literally, less than half. Okay? And last season, he missed 17 games. He was unavailable for 17 games, 82 days. Yeah. And we thought that was covered, of course, that, Jeremy Frimpong seemed a great signing around the 30 million mark, homegrown. I thought he had a really good debut for the 60 minutes, didn't he? And then we got Arne Slot's press conference where he said, and we think it was, probably precautionary, they took him off. No, Jeremy Frimpong is out until after this international break. A player that, if you look at his minutes with Leverkusen last season, was, over 3,000, ever present. Yeah. Hopefully it's maybe just a bit of bad luck, getting used to the intensity, things can happen, but does pull question marks across this back line, which is why, as I drag him here from reported targets, everyone wants Marc Guehi to come into this mix as well. Even with Giovanni Leone, I think everyone would be happy to have 5 centre-backs. And even then treating Gomez as multifunctional, would that be fair? And if you think Marc Guehi got a great injury record, he's been very rarely injured if you look at his career. And last season for Palace, 3,931 minutes. And if you think, if we already had Guehi in the squad, say, for tonight at Newcastle, you'd feel a lot more secure. You could even think, we could shift over to almost, you start one at full, like Guehi at fullback. I know it's not a back three we play, but adapt the system, etc. Of course, all that comes into the mix. It is important to say as well, and everyone will be talking about this, is Guehi going to get done? I mean, it doesn't sound like it's going to be before Palace's second leg of that Europa Conference League qualifier. But it is important to note at the same time, Fabrizio did tweet this morning, and with an exclusive, that Crystal Palace have entered the race. I'm probably going to butcher his name here. For JD Cambo, I think it's pronounced. Toulouse, who are looking for around 20 million euros. Yeah. So that could come into the mix as well. But when you actually look at it and you say what was short, as we said, just to recap, we lost 4,769 minutes when Trent and Kwanzaa went out the door. It looks like you are going to lose 1,674 with Tsimikas. Naturally, you think you've got that covered, of course, at left back with Kirkez and Robertson. You're not worried about that too much. But the fullback situation, Connor Bradley's injury record, Jeremy Frimpong now picking up, it seems like, unless I'm reading it wrong, from the data, his first muscle injury that I've seen of his career. It's just why that when we look at all these areas, it does, and it's a big pressure on Giovanni Leone. I know the kid's got talent, but to go from 16th in Serie A with Parma to, competing for titles at the top of the Premier League is such a change. Yeah, and it's a big ask. Italians, do they always think, don't always go well, as we know with Chiesa straight away in the Premier League? Honestly, it just makes all the sense for Marc Guehi to walk through the door of AXA before that transfer window shuts. I don't think realistically, and it's funny, isn't it? Daryl there already said, I don't think we sign Guehi or Isak. That defence can get very stretched there all of a sudden if that isn't the case. But we'll see, eh? There is some depth of defence. It's not as big as the forward line. However, yeah, interesting. We'll see. That's a quick review of the defence.